Thank God it's Friday. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning on The Review, as we'll be taking a look at stories on front pages of newspapers. My name is God's Time David, and that is what we're going to be doing majorly this morning. But before we take a look at coronavirus updates this morning, quite a couple of stories are making rounds on front pages of newspapers, which is the controversy between Secondus and the party. There are calls for him to step down. However, the party members are saying that there's no point for him to step down because his tenure would soon come to an end, so he should just go ahead and finish his tenure. Also, we have the conversation of the strike of National Association of Resident Doctors. It began on the 2nd of August 2021, and the federal government is still not having, according to a report I had this morning from the national president of NAD, the federal government is yet to reach out to them. Rather, yesterday I saw a report how that the Minister of Health was calling on National Association of Resident Doctors to resume work with immediate effect. And NAD is not taking that lightly, as they described that statement as a threat. So they are saying that the federal government should at least yield to their demands. It is not a big deal for them to resume work. They will resume work if the federal government at least comes up with a plan, not just a plan, but gets into work and putting actions to those plans. Within this week, we also have the conversation of Abba Kyari, the story linking him with Hush Puppy and the rest. That statement, that conversation, and many more would bring you. We also have a story how that expert is urging federal government to look seriously into infrastructural deficit in Nigeria. I know Esther and I had this conversation one time, how we have maintenance issues in Nigeria. Now, right about now, we have our guest joining us from Lagos State, Nigeria. His name is Sheson Okwande. He's a public affairs analyst. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank God it's Friday, and it's my pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank God it's Friday. All right, let's begin with the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, the story staring us right in the face is the picture of Secondus. And the story says that relief for Secondus as PDP BOT tackles Wike and rejects interim ESCOM. Apparently, there has been a controversy between Secondus letting him off the office. His tenure is just around the corner. He's about to step down. However, there are controversy if he should continue his tenure or continue. How would you react to this story?
Thank you very much. If you look at the crisis that is pervading the opposition party, which is the PDP, it will shock you to understand that they are really not taking the position they are supposed to as the opposition side, considering the internal crisis that is happening within them. Be that it may, what we have seen playing out in the current trend is how individual is going to secure their position, secure their relevance, secure how to continue to, possibly oppress and give direction in the party. And it's part of what we have said on the part of our politicians, that the essence of them coming to power is not for the masses, but for themselves. Otherwise, I have not seen any reason why this discrepancy, where this disagreement is coming up, and you discover that some governor has seen themselves as high and mighty, that feels that they can pull out the chairman. Be that it may, there are serious allegations too against the chairman of misappropriation of funds. And we have said this, that he who must go to equity must go with clean hands. Is people accusing him, clean themselves as their hand to not stain with certain things. So we discover that the problem that is in the party as we speak is more of greed and self-centeredness. And if we continue in that like manner, it will continue to be a problem. Thank God for the intervention of the BOT, at least to down the tension. But the fact still remains that the fundamental, which is personal greed and selfishness, that has pervaded the heart of average politician in the country, not putting into consideration the masses, will continue to be a problem. It's not only being faced with PDP. APC are having a slot of their own too. And until they put the citizen at the center, knowing fully well that the reason why they are there is for service and not for personal this thing, we'll continue to have this problem.
Well, you've said it already that it has to be about the leadership and not it should have nothing to do with interest. Before I let you off the hook this morning, let's take a look at the story that has to do with infrastructural deficit. Now, it's still on the Punch newspaper. Experts urge federal government to address infrastructural challenges in the FTZs. Now, I had a conversation with a colleague of mine quite some time ago, and we're talking about how that the infrastructure in Nigeria has serious challenges, which has to do with maintenance culture. Now, talking about infrastructural deficit in Nigeria, how do you think this can be fixed?
Yeah, it's a two-way thing, if you permit me. The government have their own side, and the citizens have their own problem. When some of these things are being provided, you discover that...
Are you there? All right, we would have Cecil join us again, but if we don't, thank you so much for joining us. Right about now, we have Matthew O'Connor joining us from Uyo, Akwa Ibom State as a public affairs analyst. Good morning, Matthew. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, Matthew, let's begin with the story that the strike embarked upon by the National Association of Resident Doctors and the statement made by the Health Minister yesterday, Dr. Ehanire, calling for them to resume work with immediate effect without any memorandum of understanding or without reaching out to them directly. How do you react to that?
We are used to most of these fire brigade, or should I call it garrison directives. When you are dealing with a professional body, it is thought that a lot of things must have been put in place to curb things that will make the whole system unorganized. So for the statement by the minister, I think the striking doctors will respond to it, and when they do their response, to weigh who is also guiding us right or wrongly.
Matthew, we can't see you. Can we see you properly so we can continue the conversation?
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's perfect. Please continue.
Is that okay now?
All right, we would have you join us again. Don't worry, we'll have you join us briefly. Still taking stories on the Vanguard newspapers. We will deploy internal conflict resolution mechanism to solve our squabble in PDP. That statement came from Otom. Crisis stakeholders rally to save APC and PDP. Addressing Boko Haram challenge in Nigeria. That's an article, how innovation is pushing Nigeria's financial inclusion drive. We have Matthew joining us again. Good morning, Matthew.
Yes, good morning. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. Take the question again, please.
We're talking about the National Association of Resident Doctors and the response by the federal government yesterday, or by the Minister of Health yesterday, asking them to resume work with immediate effect.
Yes, the immediate effect directive, by the time we hear from the resident doctors, we will get to know if that directive is in order or not. They
responded this morning. The national president responded this morning. I saw an interview he had this morning, and he was saying that they would not go back on their words except the federal government reaches out to them directly. Now, nobody reached out to them. You're just issuing them a threat and telling them they do not have any right to embark on a strike.
That is the simple truth. Because resident doctors is a professional body, and they are supposed to be very organized. So when you're getting directive like that, that seems to come from a military setting, you have to take it with a pinch of salt.
What do you mean, so military setting? That came from the Minister of Health.
Yes, what I mean is that the automatic alacrity, resume immediately.
Okay.
And the other details not following, it's like just giving a command which is supposed to be obeyed without any argument. And that's, I don't see it's going to be possible. Yes.
All right, let's move away from that story and hope that they would have, they will come to a consensus, or a memorandum of understanding will be signed alongside actions, because they've been having MOUs for quite some time without actions backing those up, which is the major problem NADS are actually facing right now. Let's move away from that and take the story on the Punch newspaper. It says that federal government pledges special courts for gender-based. Okay, I'll pass that. Let's take this one. It's still on the Punch newspaper. The story says that experts urge federal government to address infrastructural challenges in FTCs. Now, before you came on, we had a conversation. We started a conversation with a public affairs analyst, but we could not continue the conversation as a result of network challenges. Now, how would you react to Nigeria's maintenance culture when it has to do with infrastructure?
GT, I'm sure you will agree with me that Nigeria has serious issues when it comes to maintenance culture. The free trade zone, the FTZ you are talking about, I'm sure most citizens are not even aware. Even people in that sector may not even have sufficient information about where we have FTZs. Talk less of knowing the level of infrastructural decay. So I think the players in that sector will have so much to do. For one, I know that the Calabar port was designated as an export free trade zone, but how functional is the Calabar port? How functional is that FTC? And how many others do we have in the country? It's like that sector is relatively unknown. And if it's unknown, knowing the kind of economic benefits it will have accrued to the country, we are losing out. The economy is losing out. So I think the people in that sector should do much more by doing the right thing and bringing the issues to the table like we are beginning to hear now.
All right, let's leave it there and take this one. NLC demands electricity tariff reduction agreement implementation by December. Apparently, the NLC has given federal government an ultimatum of December 2021 for them to implement to reduce electricity tariffs by 15 naira per kilowatt. Now, do you foresee any strike coming come December? Say the federal government refuses to consents to this?
It's unfortunate that we've come to this juncture again. You'll recall that I think it was in September 2020 that there was a federal government and the Organized Labour Technical Committee specifically for the electricity tariff. And they gave their report, I think in January. They met in February. They have understanding of things to be done. And here we are in August. It wasn't a matter of massive demand that they did not even meet. There was no understanding. It's a joint thing. So if federal government has not been able to honor the report which was put together by Labour and the federal government, it is still the problem of where do we go from here?
Well, Matthew, as you said, where do we go from here? Let's keep our fingers crossed and let's talk about the story on education. Now, the National Youth Service Corps members in Ogun State, about 35 of them tested positive for COVID-19, 18 in Niger State. Not just these two states, we've had some states getting positive results for quite some time now. Now, the increasing cases of this COVID-19 coming up in these camps, do you think that it's enough to still keep them there, or should the camp be closed for now, at least temporarily, up until all this is over?
God's time. It might interest you to know that by 9:30, I'm going to be discussing the NYSC issue on my program.
Okay, all right, yeah, okay.
That is called...
Don't worry, just go ahead, don't worry.
Yes. The issue is that looking at the COVID pandemic and the fact that couples are brought from different states, different parts of the country, sometimes even from people who come from overseas to enroll in the scheme. For God's sake, why do we have to continue with the same method of assembling our young ones? Yesterday or thereabout, 5 of them were brought back dead who had accidents on their way to Katsina, all of them from Akwa Ibom State. And it's just like, oh, that one is over. So for the COVID, I believe that the federal government should look at their decision to go ahead with continued camping and see what other measures can be taken. And more so, it is right time that reforms be brought into the sector. We can no longer run NYSC scheme like it was intended. Obviously, things have changed. We can no longer continue that way.
Well, do you think that the number of corps members sent to the camp should be reduced? Because when you send about 2,000-3,000 people to one camp and you have them packed in one place, that might not be so well.
It is not that might not be so well. That itself is so odd. It's against policies of even some state governments. Talking to federal government, this thing boils down to states. And governors have responsibility to go and see how people are faring in their camps. Are these policies in line with their own policies as states? Governors need to step up their game by telling the federal government, please, we cannot allow more than 100 or 200 people gather under official auspices. We've had churches closed, had churches have to social distance. They are now running shift. Though the market is still going on, under official arrangement. It's not palatable that we find up terms of 2,000.
All right, Matthew, network is preventing me from hearing everything you're saying. But I must thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for your thoughts.
I appreciate it.
Happy weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.